In dogs, she's fed on Pedigree Chum and Pedigree Chum Mixer. Pedigree Chum nourishment, firm and meaty through and through.
Emma won Best in Shirtcraft, which was absolutely amazing. And she couldn't have done that without the help of good food.
Pedigree Chum. No wonder top breeders recommend it.
Texas Home Care's new DIY Superstore is open tomorrow, 9 a.m. in Marshall Lake Road, Solihull.
Everything looks better at Texas.
Robinson's Original is made with real fruit juice and more of it. When they want something cool and refreshing, only Robinson's Original will really do.
AMR Motors for Nissan. See the complete range at St. John's Worcester, Rubery Birmingham, Lakeside Redditch and Ludlow Bypass Ludlow. AMR Motors.
If you're feeling down in the mouth, we pay up. If you have a happy event, we make it happier. If you need glasses, we see you all right. We're BHSF, and for just £1 a week, we'll give you and your family all these cash benefits and more. Ask about BHSF at work or call this number. We'll give you the money when you need it the most.
Good afternoon. This is Central, bringing you cooking for celebration.
Anniversaries at home means you can add those little touches that make it more personal and a really special occasion. I think it's fun to have a colour scheme for the menu. A natural main course for a ruby wedding, for example, would be duckling with a ruby red cherry sauce like this. The menu I've chosen has a golden theme and would do equally well for a golden wedding or any special party. So today I'm making prawns in mayonnaise wrapped in smoked salmon, beef Wellington with a mushroom Madeira sauce, apricot and orange chantilly, and a trifle too. But now let me get on with the first course. Well, it's a special first course. The prawns are in a lovely mayonnaise sauce, and then you wrap that round with smoked salmon and a little dill to decorate and a wedge of lemon. First of all, the prawns. You take a pound of prawns and you thaw them slowly in the kitchen and until they're totally defrosted, and drain off every scrap of water. Very important, because if you don't get all the water away, it'll thin down the mayonnaise. So to make absolutely sure, just a bit of kitchen paper, and as you can see, that's absolutely dry. Then you add the mayonnaise, and it's half a pint of mayonnaise. Homemade mayonnaise is best on this occasion, a nice light one. I make one, as you know, using the whole egg. So that's all the sauce in, and then you need to season it with a little bit of salt. Even though I've added salt and pepper to the mayonnaise, the prawns are quite bland. So ground black pepper, then blend that together. Now don't try and do this early in the day, because what would happen is it would become too runny. You do this about an hour before the meal, and if you've drained the prawns well, it won't go runny. So that's well mixed together. Then for the smoked salmon, I buy it in a vacuum pack because, to be honest, I'm not very good at cutting thin slices of bread or thin slices of smoked salmon. So lie it out, then take a little bit of this mixture. You'll need a pound of smoked salmon. Now all this seems rather a lot, doesn't it? But remember, this will serve between 8 and 10 people. So take the roll, then just lift it over like that and carefully roll it, and then lift that up and arrange 2 or 3 on a bed of lettuce like that, and then put a little bit of dill or fennel tops And you can also, this would be about an hour beforehand, you can also slice the bread. Now, I'm saying it's much better to have nice chunky sliced bread. Granary bread is good. Cut it, keep it in the piece, as I've got here, so that it doesn't get dry, and that's ready for people to help themselves, and the butter's on the table too. Now, I like to have the first course already on the table before my guests come in. It saves a last-minute flap and doesn't need last-minute attention. Now for the main course, beef Wellington. Now, that is a roasted fillet of beef, which is in a pastry crust, a puff pastry crust, and you serve it with a Madeira and mushroom sauce. Now, first of all, you need to cook the fillet because it's cooked before it goes into the pastry. You need 3½ pounds of fillet of beef cut from the thick end. Ask the butcher if he will tie it for you at intervals with string. That means it holds together better while it's cooking. And put it into the roasting tin, then spread a little butter over the top and a little bit of sunflower oil, pepper and salt, and you want to roast that at 425 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 220 degrees centigrade, gas number 7, and you want to roast that for 20 to 30 minutes. Obviously, the 20 minutes means it's a little bit rare. Then take it out of the tin and let it get stone cold. And this is something you would do early in the day. All this can be prepared ahead of time. Take it from the oven, let it get cold, save the lovely juices that you've had from the tin, take the fat off them, and snip off the string when it is cold. Then that goes into pastry. Now, this really and truthfully isn't a true beef Wellington because that has a pâté on the top, but I really prefer it without the pâté and having it with a really lovely sauce. Now, I've got a 14-ounce packet of puff pastry here, and I buy puff pastry because I find it very good. And there's one of our local aeroplanes going over the top. Put plenty of flour under the pastry, and then make sure the flour is on the rolling pin and roll it to an oblong. Puff pastry is nicest for this recipe. Then again, I'm putting a little bit more flour underneath. It is so infuriating. You find you roll it out to a nice size and it just sticks to the board. I've got a nice cool surface here. Roll it out, and I'm keeping an eye on the fillet that's cooked for the size. I haven't given you the exact measurement because obviously some fillets of beef are a little bit thicker or longer than others. And I'm rolling that nice and thinly. You'll notice I'm doing it only one way, lengthways or across. If you do it at an angle, you'll find that it really, if you do it sort of like that, it won't rise evenly. I think just a little bit longer. If you want, you can do a plait instead of what I'm going to do, a parcel, but I'm going to put letters and writing on the top, and I think it's a little more different than having a plait. I think that's just about the right size. Now, turn it over and put the beef in the middle. And again, it's really, really cold. Then to make that parcel stick, you need to egg it all the way around. You'll notice I wasn't trimming any of the pastry off. It's like a huge Cornish pasty, isn't it? But something very special in the middle. Some recipes put a mushroom mixture on top of the fillet all along here, but I prefer to have it in the lovely sauce. Now, fold the sides over like that, over the top, and just press it down. Now, that is important. Can you see me really pressing that down and then turn the flap over here? It's important to press it really, really tightly, otherwise the juices will come out. There won't be many more juices. Then roll that over, and there's our neat parcel, which I'm going to decorate. Let's move that to one side. And here's one that I've got halfway done, and I've already started writing on top of it. Congratulations. And this could be for any party, couldn't it? It could be for a birthday, all sorts of things. It does look special, rather nicer than the usual leaves that we've done for years. Now, to make the letters, take a trimming of the pastry, roll it very thinly and make it cool, and then you can cut the letters quite easily. I usually start by having a strip across like that, and then with a very sharp knife, you start cutting the letters. And if the pastry is cold, this isn't a difficult task at all. So you can just cut it round. And I might say that if the children are about, they seem to enjoy doing this and are really rather better than I am. And again, you see, all this can be done in the morning. And so all you've got to do at the end is to put the meat into the oven and cook the vegetables. The starter's done, and you can also do the pudding ahead. So there's one letter, very easily done. I could write Mary, couldn't I? The trimming's gone. Now, to put these on ahead, you can do this. Just take a little bit of egg and take the letters. There we are, the O's next. Put a little bit of egg on to make it stick. When you're doing a long word like this, let me give you a tip. I cut the letters out first, and I took the middle letter and put that on, because you can end up by writing congratulations and you haven't got room for the rest. Then lastly, we've got the S. Now, cool this, presuming it's still in the morning, and cover it with cling film in the refrigerator. Then, about 3/4 of an hour before you need it, you want to bake it. So take off the cling film, put a nice shiny glaze of the egg on top, and then you want to bake it in a hot oven. That's 425 degrees Fahrenheit, 220 degrees centigrade, gas number 7, and you want to do that for 30 minutes, and then it's ready to serve. But to go with it, that lovely sauce, the mushroom and Madeira. To give the sauce a good flavour, I'm starting by frying the onion, and I've done that. It's 1 small onion, and I've fried it in 2 ounces of butter until it's a very, very pale golden and tender. Then I'm going to add to that 8 ounces of mushrooms, and I've cut those mushrooms up into chunky pieces, and I'm just going to fry them gently for a couple of minutes. I've included the stalk in with the mushrooms because I'm going to puree the sauce at the end, and it'll give a lovely flavour, and we get no waste that way. So turn those well for a couple of minutes. I'm cutting the time a little bit short there, and to thicken the sauce, I'm adding 1½ ounces of flour. Now, the homely measure is 1 ounce is a rounded tablespoon, in that goes, and then ½ ounce, a level tablespoonful. Now stir that well together until everything is coated. Now some people, when they make this recipe for beef Wellington, put a sort of puree mixture on top of the beef before putting it into the pastry. I'd much prefer to make this delicious sauce, which gives a nice sort of juice. Then I'm going to add in the stock. Now the stock is 3/4 of a pint of really good jellied stock. It's a beef stock, and as my mother says, you couldn't you, jump on it almost. Add it little by little, stirring and mixing well. And then when you've added all the stock, let it simmer gently until everything is tender. Then you want to put it into a processor or blender and puree it, and I've got some at that stage now. If you haven't got a processor or blender, remember you could always sieve it. So I've got a nice puree here now, a thick puree. You can see it's a grey because of the cooked mushrooms. Then what gives it its flavour is about 3 tablespoonfuls, about that, 3 tablespoonfuls of Madeira. Stir that in, and very important, do you remember we saved the juices of the meat, and I've got them here. That all adds to the flavour. It's a very special occasion, so we want a very special sauce. So blend that together, let it come to the boil, and then I'm going to add cream to it, which really makes it rich and special. Now, when adding cream, you really want to take it off the heat, which I'm doing. It's boiled well. Now add 1/4 pint of single cream. Mix it well in, and at this stage you want to taste it because it's got to be absolutely right. Don't reboil this with cream in, but you can reheat it. Then taste the sauce. For my taste, just a little bit of pepper, and then into the sauce boat. There we go. If you like it a little bit thinner, you could always add a little bit of stock. Now, 30 minutes is up, so the beef should be absolutely ready. Oh, that looks just lovely. Take it off its metal baking tray. The best thing to put it onto, I find, is a board. It's much easier to carve on rather than a plate. Right into the middle, then any juices will run into that groove. Pop that out of the way. Now, vegetables to go with the beef Wellington. I've got some little tiny peas and some mange too, and I've cooked those for minimum time, about 3 or 4 minutes, until they're quite crisp. And then in goes the sauce. Now let's see what it's like in the middle. Now remember, this will serve 8 to 10 people, and you want to cut it in fairly thick slices. And just pink in the middle. And now apricot and orange chantilly. This is a mousse with a strong flavour of apricots and oranges. First of all, you need to take 8 ounces of dried apricots, because they give a good flavour, soak them overnight in a pint of water. This will plump them up. Then the next day, put them in a pan and simmer them with the water until they're tender for about 10 minutes. Then you need to puree them, and I'm going to do this in a blender or a processor. Put them in, then switch on the processor and just process them until they're lovely and smooth. Then for the gelatin that makes it set, take half an ounce of gelatin, put it with 4 tablespoonfuls of water, and let it set like a sponge. Then put it in a pan of simmering water until it dissolves and becomes lovely and clear like that. I hope you heard all that over the noise of the processor, but I have got a lovely smooth mixture. Now, I've got in the bowl 4 eggs and 4 ounces of sugar, and I've just lightly beaten those together until it's lovely and frothy. When it's nice and frothy, you then add the puree mixture to it. Now, this is a cool puree mixture. First of all, take out the blade and just scrape that down. Be careful of these blades because they're very sharp. When you come to wash them up, watch where they are, because they could easily cut your hand. So in goes all that lovely bright puree. And it wants to be lovely and smooth. Dried apricots give really a nicer flavour and stronger flavour than the fresh apricots. Then the orange flavour is a concentrated orange, and you have it this size, about 6 1/4 ounces. In that goes. Then the dissolved gelatin, which is now cool, that goes in, and then blend that together. Start blending it before you add the cream, and you can already see that lovely spreading through of the dark coloured apricots. That's nice and smooth. Then lastly, the cream, and it's half a pint of whipped cream. Don't over whip it, otherwise it won't go in smoothly. Scrape that well. Then whip that in, just lightly. Now that takes a couple of minutes to do, and I've already got one at this stage when it's set in a bowl. So just mix that, put that to one side, and I'll show you the one that I've got in the refrigerator. And that looks set firm like a rock. Now for the decoration of this, I put a little bit of cream on the top. Now this is for 8 or 10 people, so I'm going to put 8 rosettes. I always find it much easier if you do it 2 at the end, and 2 like that. Just a little cream, because in fact there's cream in the mixture. Then another one. And my arithmetic's right, that's 8. Then you can take a little bit of the dried apricot that's been soaked and put it on top. All the way around like that. I always think when you're garnishing something, it's nice to have some of the content, whichever fruit it is, it makes it look pretty. Then we've also got orange in, so a little bit of orange on the top like that. And now an excellent trifle. And this is very extravagant, not a bit frugal, and made from the best ingredients. First of all, you need 2 packets of trifle sponges. Split them and spread them with strawberry jam, preferably homemade. Cut them into little pieces and arrange them in a big glass dish. Then break up 2 macaroons over the top, Now, I use macaroons in preference to ratafias because ratafias are rather expensive, and it's all the same mixture, so just put those over. It gives a lovely almondy flavour. Press those down. Then take 2 cans of pears and chop them up a bit, put those on top. And then the juice from the cans of pears, pour that over, and it'll already begin to soak up. And then, to give it a nice boozy flavour, 8 tablespoonfuls of sherry. Now, at this stage, you want to press it down, and it'll start to absorb. Make it level. And now to the custard part. I do suggest that you make real custard, and for this you'll need 6 egg yolks. Remember that you could use the white for meringues, which was likely to be making for a party, and put the 6 egg yolks in a bowl with the sugar, 2 ounces of caster sugar, and 2 teaspoonfuls of corn flour. Mix those well together and boil 1 pint of milk, and then pour on the boiling milk, stirring all the time, and then return it to the heat to bring it to the boil, and it'll be nice and thick. The difference that you may notice from custards you've made in the past, it's got a bit of corn flour in, and those 2 teaspoons of corn flour act as a stabilizer. Then, once it's cooked, just stir it and give it a good whisk as it's cooling, and it'll be this lovely consistency. So let's pour that on the trifle, and it's all soaked up. On goes all the custard, but you'll have to leave that to set. Now, at the moment, as you can see, it's runny, and leave that a couple of hours and it'll become firm. Just let it run to the side. Then when it's set, you want to put whipped cream over the top, spread it right over the top, and then a few flaked almonds. Flaked almonds are lovely toasted. They give a much better flavour over the top like that. And then what could be nicer than some fresh fruit to decorate it with? And I'm going to have some strawberries and dip them in chocolate. So what you do is you melt chocolate first of all, and I've got that chocolate in a pan of hot water. I can still touch the bottom of the pan, and then I'm going to take a strawberry, dip it in, but not the whole of it, because you wouldn't see that it was a strawberry. I'm purposely leaving the stalk on the end. It gives people something to grab when they eat it. Hold that, shake it for a bit, and then put it onto silicone non-stick paper, let it get stone cold. Then they come off quite easily, and arrange them round. And this huge bowl would serve 8 or 10 people, or even more if you've got a choice of puddings. Put them all round, and they'll, I think, enjoy them enormously. Or you could just put fresh raspberries round the outside. Whether it's your own party, or perhaps you're doing it for your parents, it's essential to plan the meal so you're not flagging by the time your guests arrive. So what can you prepare ahead, and what can you freeze? Well, first of all, the prawns in mayonnaise wrapped in smoked salmon, you certainly couldn't freeze that because the mayonnaise would curdle. So prepare that about an hour ahead of the meal, and then put the little dish in front of each place setting, and it's ready when everybody comes in. Now the beef Wellington, I would put that in the pastry the day before, then wrap it in cling film, put it in the refrigerator, keep it cool, take it out on the afternoon of the day, and then I would bake it an hour or so before the meal and keep it hot. It keeps hot well. The mushroom and Madeira sauce, you can make that 2 weeks ahead and freeze it if you like, but don't add the cream and don't add the juices of meat because, in fact, you haven't got them at that stage. Thaw it on the day and then add the cream and the juices. The apricot and orange chantilly, that freezes beautifully. You can do that 2 weeks ahead. Remember to do it in a strengthened glass dish and decorate it if you like, but I prefer to put the decorations on at the last minute so they look very fresh. It needs a bit of cling film over the top when you're freezing it. Now to that trifle, that doesn't freeze very well because custard curdles when you freeze it. So I would make that the day before, cover it, keep it cool, and it's ready for the day. It's fun to extend the colour scheme to the decorations. Now the flowers, I've got lovely gold flowers. I've got some chrysanthemums and some roses, and when it's put in with green and variegated ivy, which we have in the garden, I think it looks very pretty. It's nice to do sometimes individual things in front of the place setting. I like a rose put in a single dish with a few leaves so it looks lovely and fresh. Or you could perhaps take a rose bud and then twist a little foil around the end and place it on top of a napkin. Now, for this golden wedding, I happen to have golden white china, which looks very pretty. I like, too, to have a little dish and put butterballs in front of each person, particularly when you've got about 10 people. It's rather nice. You don't have to do too much passing if you've got them already there. Then I've got gold candles, which I found, and they're very suitable. And to have with the coffee in a little dish, I've got some gold almonds. You can also get them with chocolate in the middle, and those are a little bit cheaper, and you can eat the gold part. And talking of candles, you can also get silver candles. Having a silver wedding is a good excuse to get out any silver you have. It makes the table look so pretty. If you want to do a silver decoration in the middle of the table, have a look in your Christmas box, and you may well find some silver baubles, and you can make those into a pyramid in the centre of the table, if you like, and put little pieces of tinsel in between, and it looks very pretty. Now to decorating the desserts, perhaps you've got a trifle. It's lovely to have these little silver-coated nuts just sprinkled over the top, or to have on the table, you can have the silver almonds, and they are nice with the coffee. And then when it comes to ruby, I went to a ruby wedding the other day, and we had a pink cloth, and there were these lovely almonds in pink and ruby colour. They looked pretty on the table, and the flowers were ruby red roses. I haven't reached my silver wedding yet, so I'm still having ordinary anniversaries. I think these napkins make them special. They've got hearts on, and they look very festive. The flowers could be bright red and perhaps a little green and white mixed in, or you could put a little flower by each person's napkin or an individual arrangement. All the recipes I've shown you today are in my new book, Cooking for Celebrations. Next time I shall be showing you recipes for food to be eaten out of doors, either in the garden or for special picnics. So join me then. Goodbye.
The recipes from this series are in the book Mary Berry Cooking for Celebrations, published by Thames.